I'm not really gonna go into detail as to what my association may be with the furry fandom, but basically, okay, actually, I probably should. So, hello, what's up? I'd probably consider myself a relatively normal person. You know, I don't have a furry profile, I don't have a furry profile. I'm not a furry. And despite my account technically being a dog, you know, Candy the puppy, it was designed based off of the pet that I had at the time, Candy, and she happened to be a puppy whenever I named my YouTube account. So that's why for many years I've been vaguely associated with the furries, just because, I mean, technically my profile is a dog. However, I've never considered myself that. Anytime someone's like, are you a furry? I'm like, no, I just am using my now deceased dog's skin and identity to then take over the internet. I'm just kidding, but yeah. But today, I thought I'd change that. Okay, so for actually making my persona, I of course do not want to just do the typical the dog thing I've been going with for pretty much my entire life. I created that account when I was like 12, and now I'm 23, so you can imagine it's been a while. So now I want to start fresh and new and with something fancy, and I was recently watching this documentary, Our Life on Earth. I think that's what it's called. The documentary is called Life on Our Planet. And so whenever I was brainstorming, I was like, okay, if I were to make a persona, I would probably want it to be something epic and cool and not really girl boss, but kind of, is butch the right word? Anyway, like butch or something like that, like super cool. And then, I guess tomboy was kind of what I was going for, because that's technically what I am. I don't have to say technically. That is what I am, as a tomboy. And there's nothing that quite exudes that kind of energy like the Queen of Gorgons, for instance. The Queen of Gorgons. Enzo Transevia. Excuse me for pronouncing it incorrectly, but I think it's a pretty cool creature. It's got the mix of like dinosaur mixed with like mammal. You know, it's almost got all the best of both. It's got freaking saber-toothed teeth. That's pretty epic. It's almost like an intentional blend of all the things I was hyper fixated with as a kid. And since I never actually made a persona or heck even drawn a furry before, like I guess I did that one time, my friend, when we were in VC, and one of my friends was being like, oh no, don't turn me into a furry, so I turned him into a furry. But other than that, I've pretty much never drawn a furry or done anything like that. So this was a first for me, so I wanted to make sure it was done to the book. Like, I did my research. I watched those crappy YouTube videos with very low res. I did all this kind of crazy stuff, and yeah, it actually wasn't that hard. But anyways, and then I put together a profile. I put together a bunch of pictures, and then among those pictures, I was like tracing things. I'm pretty sure you'll have this on screen, but I'm not looking at that. But I was tracing things, and I was comparing the body of the creature to the body of a human, and kind of finding the middle ground. And then I was like figuring out what color it should be, what like shape it should be. I decided to go with just a completely naked creature. Like, I'm sure it has fur, but just not a lot. You know, it's more naked, you know, it's more human-like, I guess I should say, instead of naked. And then I basically just gave her an outfit that I actually have. I mean, pretty close, at least. I'm currently wearing the shirt that she has. I just kind of gave her my outfit. That's what I end up doing with all my OCs anyways. But yeah, so then I did that, and then I did that, and then ooh, I did some of that too. Whoa. Whoa, look at all that epic drawing I'm doing. Whoa. Since I don't really draw animals, I definitely went ahead and just traced a few pictures of the creature first to get more of a feel of like how it would look and all this kind of stuff. So that's why I was just tracing and having some fun with it at first, and then I went into actually making the basic design and shape and all that crap. I'm actually genuinely surprised the pose turned out as well as it did, and just the figure in general, but especially the pose, because I am almost never just straight up drawing a pose and then end up making it detailed where it actually looks good. You know, usually I have to have some sort of reference or like a picture that I'm looking at, or I mean, I definitely don't trace things, especially not for my own, but sometimes for practice I'll definitely trace a lot of stuff. So this was one of the first times where I actually was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna look for any like references, and so I just did it, and I was like, whoa, why does that actually look good? And yeah, I gave her boobs, so what? I'm a woman. Sue me. And while this video is playing, I guess I'll ramble a little bit. So basically, I put this character on a train just to kind of show her in a more natural environment, kind of emphasize how big she is. Like, I'm pretty small, so this character is very big, but she's also very small for her species, so she's able to actually fit onto trains and stuff like that, whereas a normal species her size would be have a hard time even getting on the train and stuff like that. So I just thought I would have some fun, but she's still very clearly big. I wanted to emphasize that she's very large, even for being a more fursona type character. You know, these things are like, I think they're, let me show the graph. I think they're bigger than tigers. So anyways, but yeah, these things are pretty big, so I wanted to kind of emphasize that, where even in this world, she's relatively large. Well, she's queen of the Gorgons, for crying out loud. She's gotta be large. As for the fangs and stuff, you can probably imagine I'm going more for just coolness factor, so obviously it's very much debated whether or not this, you know, what this creature even looked like. So I just kind of took a few creative liberties and just went with what would look so cool, what would look sick. So that's what I ended up going with, and that ended on me having the fangs on the outside of the mouth. There, now you know the history behind that. And because fursonas are basically just like, oh, I want to look pretty, or I want to look cool, I basically made my character be like, okay, what is the essence that if a genie were to approach me and were to say, hey, you could have any body type you want, what would it be? I'd be like, heck yeah, I want this. And so it's technically not exactly to scale for me. Obviously I'm very short, but also I'm also quite curvy, so this would be very much not me. But if I were to be approached by a genie and they said, hey, what kind of body type would you like, I went, I want this, of course. So that's the story behind that. She do be looking like a dinosaur, though, I will admit. I also went for a more older type of creature, mostly just because I feel I'm more of like an old soul kind of person, where I'm a bit wiser for my age, or at least that's what I've been told since I was a kid. So I kind of have just been drawn to the idea of having, if I were to have a fursona, it being something that's a lot more ancient. And I mean, this is pretty ancient, even more ancient than the dinosaurs, so yeah. One of the few things I did keep consistent between this design and my actual self were the eyes, the green and brown eyes. I decided to keep that the same because it's magical and fantastical, and I don't know, man. I will say, though, I actually had a lot of fun with the textures of it. You know, once I colored the character and I then added the noise texture just almost immediately because I was so excited about it, because I was like, whoa, I've never gotten to do this before. It's quite cool. And I saw some like fast speed paint where someone did that, and I was like, yo, that actually helped it so much. And I did that to my character, and I was like, yo, it actually did something cool and made it all. So I was a bit excited about that, just some behind the scenes stuff. And I guess the shading and everything else was quite standard. I haven't really done like such detailed rendering in a while. I didn't do any highlights. I kept it as simple as I could. But I also did kind of just go into a flow state, and I ended up doing a little bit more than I had originally intended, and making it look a little fancier than I intended to, just because I do like rendering stuff. Check out my comic on Namikami called, crap, what's it called again? I didn't mind the male lead. Yeah, that's what it's called. Okay, I didn't mind the male lead. It's just some silly fantasy thing. I've been doing a lot of the rendering and background art and stuff for that, so if you guys like my art, you can check that out. Just know it is for 16+ audience. Oh yeah, this is a fun one. Okay, since the Inostransevia is basically a more Russian, you know, it was found in Russia and it mostly lived in Russia, I just thought it would be fun if the character, I am not from Russia, if you can't tell, but I thought it would be fun if the character is at least, you know, somewhat connected to her Russian roots, so I thought it would be fun to have tattoos that kind of commemorate that. And the Russians, they love their poetry, apparently. I have done previous research into Russian culture, and they seem to like poetry. So what I did was I gave her tattoos that kind of look like the military styled, not the military, the prison style tattoos that you'd see in Japan, because I also have a bit of an interest in Japanese culture as well, and kind of combined that with the Russian literature, and bada bing bada boom, it actually ended up being some pretty cool looking tattoos. In the art itself, it's obviously just the same poem repeated, but I thought if the character were, you know, in actual universe, each tattoo would be a different poem, so just thought I'd say that in case anyone wants to be a little correctionist, like, oh, just actually. And for the background, and especially the background characters, I got kind of lazy. I just kind of threw a random background in there. And then I just made all the characters shadowy figures. So, I mean, obviously not my finest work, but it's alright. I think it does kind of detract from the quality of the character, but oh well. I made sure to save them all to separate layers, so it would be it's fine, it's fine. But yeah, that's my character. I don't really intend to use her or anything, but I thought it'd just be fun to make a video where I am showing this off and drawing art and having fun. I had fun drawing it. I hope you had fun watching it. See ya. Have a nice day.